oh, when are you gonna have kids? We're guilty of this. We'll be like, oh, I don't know, haha. Like, we just kind of joke, like, are we trying or are we not?
Hey everybody, this is Jacob, and this is my wife McKenna. We just want to reach out and share a story with you. A lot of people have been asking in the past probably several months, when are you going to start having some kids? So we figured we'd make this video to help not only those people out to get an answer, but also the others looking for the same answers that we were seeking for.
We also want to share a story just for everyone out there who may be going through something similar. I know that it's really easy to feel alone in infertility. 1 in every 8 couples struggle with infertility, and 1 in every 5 couples go through miscarriage. So, those rates are really high, and, it kind of makes us wonder, why are people not talking about it? And why are people not, sharing their stories and their struggles, just so that, you can come together in community rather than everyone suffering in silence.
So it's always good news when you have the baby and you're pregnant, you get to share it with everybody. But what you don't realize is the struggle that some people have to go through in order to have that baby. So that's what we're trying to share with everybody, so that you can come along the ride with us and join us in this journey that we're taking in order to have a child, where we have realized that it's way more difficult than some people make it seem to be.
Infertility can be extremely hard to go through, and no one should feel embarrassed or, guilty or shameful for sharing it or talking about it, because it's something that a lot of people go through. Like we said, it's 1 in every 8 couples. Infertility is diagnosed after, trying to conceive for over 12 months with no success, or after a woman has had 4 miscarriages. Infertility can be extremely hard to go through, and you can feel alone because, like I said, no one talks about it. But we've noticed that the second that we have started talking about it, we kept it to ourselves for quite a while because, we thought like everyone else, oh, well, you only talk about it after you're pregnant. You don't really tell people that you're trying. So, after we've been open about it and talked to, some of our friends and family, we've had a huge support system behind us, and, people praying for us and comforting us and just being there for us so that we're not walking this out alone.
After 3 months of being married, we decided we wanted to try and have kids, which was a big change of plans from when we originally started. We were hoping that after a couple of years we would start having kids, but that changed shortly after we were married.
Growing up, I never really had regular cycles. They were super irregular. I never had my first one until high school, and then I remember my second one never even came. It was like 6 months later, I think. So I was like, this isn't really normal. They, kept being irregular. I went to the family doctor, and she was like, oh, well, you're skinny and you're pretty active in sports, so it's probably nothing to worry about. You're fine, it's normal. So that's what I went on thinking. I was like, okay, well, great. I don't have to have regular cycles. Every girl's dream, right? But then when you get older, you realize, okay, well, I actually need a cycle to have a baby. You can't get pregnant without having cycles, so you start to realize how important they really are to have. But we knew going into marriage that it may be difficult to get pregnant. Jacob and I were on the same page. He knew I didn't really have regular cycles, that there could be an issue, but none that I knew of. And so like that first month that we started trying, we were like hesitant, because who's like gung-ho the first month? You're like, we think we want a baby, but we don't know if we're ready, and then everyone tells you you can never be ready. So
practice makes perfect.
Oh yeah, that's what people say too. But so we started trying, and I remember I was a week late when we were in Florida, and we were like super excited because I was late, and we're like, no, I think Jacob was a little more nervous than me because he's like, first month, no way. And so we went and bought a pregnancy test together, our very first one, and I remember taking it, like Jacob was waiting outside of the bathroom, and he was just anxiously waiting to see what it said. And I remember waiting and waiting. I was so excited but nervous, and then after I took my first negative pregnancy test, I was obviously super disappointed, but at the same time I wasn't naive enough to believe that everyone gets pregnant on the first try. So our 1 month turned into 3 months, and I knew that my cycles weren't regular, and that wasn't okay. Obviously that's going to make it harder to get pregnant if I'm not having regular cycles. And I was told that you couldn't be seen by a doctor unless you had been trying for a year, which is true with fertility related appointments, But if you aren't having regular cycles each month, then you can go to the doctor. Like, they will help you. That's not normal. That's okay. They'll figure that out. Just for anyone who is curious about that or needs to see a doctor. But for me, thinking that I couldn't be seen by an OBGYN, I went to a homeopathic doctor, maybe thinking that they could figure out why I wasn't having regular cycles. And, you know, she told me that I was allergic to dairy and I needed to cut it out and my cycles would be regular. So that sucked. That wasn't fun, because I made Jacob do it along with me. But at the same time, I could give up milk and cheese to have a baby. So we did that for about 3 months. And my cycles did kind of get a little more regular, but then, you know, after 3 months they were irregular again, and I'm like, okay, we're still not pregnant and nothing's happening, so, you know, why are we doing no dairy if it's not helping?
So we brought the milk and cheese back into the life.
Yes. Thank the Lord for milk and cheese. After 6 months of trying, and that was after cutting out all the milk and cheese, we're like, you know what, we're in Mexico, we're gonna eat all the milk and cheese that we can find, because we went without for 3 months, so we had a splurge on in Mexico. But then, you know, I was like a month late, and I was like, you know, maybe we could really be pregnant, like this could be it. We've been trying for 6 months, like that's pretty normal. I feel like we could definitely be pregnant. And I took test after test after test, and they were all negative, and I'm like, these can't be accurate, like they just have to be wrong, because I still haven't started a cycle, so I have to be pregnant. Like, they're just inaccurate. So, you know, you start Googling, oh, can you be pregnant with a negative pregnancy test? And then you hear all of these rare stories of how women can be pregnant with negative pregnancy tests. And I'm like, you know, maybe that's me. I was just in denial for a long time. And then, you know, I came to the fact of, okay, well, I'm really not pregnant. And people around us started getting pregnant, and they, you know, started trying after us. And we're like, okay, well, this is super discouraging. Why is it taking us so long and not everyone else? And I remember that month was, like, really hard. Just because, like, I hadn't had a cycle in forever, and I thought that I was pregnant and I wasn't, and like I kept begging Jacob for a puppy, and he kept saying no, he didn't want one, and then he surprised me for Valentine's Day with a puppy, and it was honestly great for both of us. Bailey is like our little child. Anyone who knows us will tell you that. But I definitely think that, you know, anyone going through infertility, just know that fur babies can be very therapeutic. I think Jacob can even agree with that.
Dogs are good.
Yeah. So 3 months later, we at the 9 month mark, and we still weren't pregnant. So that was hard enough of itself. We're like, you know, I remember thinking, if we would have gotten pregnant that first month that we started trying, you know, we would be holding our baby right now. And I remember that was like really hard just to deal with. But also at the same time, I knew that we were getting close to the 1 year mark, so if anything was wrong, then I could be seen by a doctor. And I started to accept the fact that something was medically wrong with me. I did a lot of research, and I came to the conclusion that I probably had polycystic ovarian syndrome, also known as PCOS, and you know, that can be diagnosed by irregular cycles, which I had, unbalanced hormones, and ovarian cysts, which those things needed to be checked out by a doctor. So I went ahead and made an appointment. I knew that there was a certain doctor that I really wanted to get into. You know, friends and family had recommended him to us, and his time to get into him, the time to wait was 3 months. So I was like, oh my goodness. I remember thinking, like, 3 months, I do not want to wait 3 months. But at the same time, I was like, well, in 3 months, if we're not pregnant, then we can be seen, you know, by him and get the fertility, you know, testing and treatments and everything if there was something wrong. But hopefully we'd get pregnant before then. And that brings us to month 12 of trying, which we weren't pregnant by then. And we went to our first appointment, and I remember thinking, like, maybe I can just get diagnosed and they can give me meds and we'll go home and start trying. But that was just wishful thinking. There were so many tests that needed to be done, and so many answers that, you know, we didn't have yet. So they did lots of poking and prodding, and he scheduled tests, and I had, you know, ultrasounds on my ovaries to check for cysts, and tons of blood work, and, you know, just tons of other testing that we had to do. And, you know, we started going to the doctor in August, and I remember I had like 6 or 7 doctor's appointments just that month. And that was like, half of them were blood draws. So if any of you know me, I'm like terrified of needles. And I remember thinking, like, when we were starting to try to get pregnant, I was like, oh, but I don't want to get blood work done. Like, that's the one thing about pregnancy. I just don't want to do it. And joke's on me, because a year later I'm getting way more blood testing for fertility related, tests and treatments rather than, getting your blood drawn to see if you're pregnant. But so we've gone through tons of testing, and everything came back semi-well, other than the fact that the doctor did diagnose me with PCOS. And he said I had 6 cysts on my left ovary, 7 on my right. He informed us that it doesn't make it impossible to get pregnant, just pretty difficult for the most part. Some women with PCOS don't struggle with getting pregnant, but most of them do. And it also increases the rates of miscarriage, which is pretty scary. The rates for miscarriage is like 30 to 50% of every pregnancy in a woman with PCOS. 30 to 50% of them will have a miscarriage. So that's 3 in 10, or even as high as 1 in every 2. So that's scary. Even if we do get pregnant, there's a chance that we could lose it. So that's just been very hard to deal with that, but at the same time we're very thankful for answers so that the doctors can figure out what they need to do and get my body healthy again and just viable for a pregnancy. After I was diagnosed with PCOS, which I had suspected, the doctor did go ahead and prescribe me Provera to make me start a cycle, because at that point in time I hadn't had a cycle since the previous 3 months before. I was on day 80 of my cycle or something like that when I went to the doctor, and most women have a 28-day cycle, so mine was triple what a normal healthy woman's is. And so, like I said, the doctor prescribed me Provera, which is a synthetic hormone that makes you start a cycle. So he's trying to get those more regular, and then he actually did some more testing and found out that I wasn't even ovulating. So not only was I not having a cycle each month, I also wasn't ovulating. And obviously, if anyone knows anything about pregnancy, you can't get pregnant without ovulating, nothing happens without the egg. So that was hard to handle, but at the same time just thankful that he found it, and thankful that there are some medications that are supposed to help with ovulation. And this month we've been put on Clomid, so that's super exciting. Hopefully this month is our month and we can just be done with infertility and have a little baby. But if it doesn't happen, or even if it does, we just want to be there for people who are struggling with it and who are going through it. And we fully believe that God has children in our future, and no matter how that happens, we know that his plan is better than ours, and that he can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. And just knowing that he has good for us even when it doesn't feel like it, and just that he is good through the storms. This is month 13 of trying, and we can still have hope and be positive because we believe that God has the best in store for us. And so like we said, we're starting Clomid this month. We'll keep you guys updated on how that goes. If you guys want to learn more about our story or stay updated, then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you don't have YouTube or whatever, just send me a message if you're going through infertility or struggling with PCOS or anything like that. We definitely want to be here for you guys and support you throughout this journey, and start a little community of people just helping each other throughout their struggles, rather than everyone pretending like they're perfect and that they don't go through things. Because we were talking about this earlier, we know from an outsider's perspective, people have said, oh, you guys have a perfect life, you don't have kids, you're young, you're married, you get to travel all the time, that just must be so nice. And we're like, yeah, it is, we're very blessed, but at the same time, no one sees what goes on behind the scenes. No one sees that, we've been struggling to have a child for over a year. People just see the pretty things that they like to see, and we just want to be real and open with you guys so that, we can help you who may be going through the same thing. We just want to go ahead and put an end to the question of when are you guys going to have kids, and instead we want to encourage everyone to start asking, how can we pray for you? You might be surprised at the difference in answers that you get. Just being, changing the question. Don't ask people when they're going to have kids. Don't, throw that hurt out there. Instead, give them the chance to open up to you. Maybe they want to, but they don't know how to. And maybe, you ask people when they're going to have kids, and who knows, that woman might have gotten a negative pregnancy test that day. You just don't know. So we just want to raise some awareness and just show people that, it's a rude question to ask, especially not knowing where people are in their journey with trying to conceive, and just being aware of, you know, what words do to other people, and just being there for them and supportive and asking them, you know, how can we pray for you? Maybe they'll open up about their infertility journey rather than, oh, when are you going to have kids? We're guilty of this. We'll be like, oh, I don't know. Like, we just kind of joke, like, are we trying or are we not? But now we're kind of to the point where we'll say, well, you know, we have been trying for a while, but it's been a long journey. So, like I said, we just want to encourage everyone to change that question. Don't ask people when they're going to have kids. Ask them, how can we pray for you? And they just might open up to you with that. But I think that this has been a pretty long video. Thanks for everyone who stuck around to listen and just kind of hear our hearts behind what we're going through right now. And we just want to thank you for all the love and support and prayers. They mean more than you guys know.
Toodles.
Toodles. Why are you so good at this? The heck? The way you said that. I shot it for a long time. That was good. It wasn't that bad, but I'm gonna be scared.